Welcome again. Welcome, everybody. Favors in the house. Welcome to Mind of Winter. Hello, welcome, welcome. So our soup makers tonight were Lily Applebaum, Allie Katz, Nick Seymour, Quinn Gruber, and a bunch of people who helped them. So let's say thank you once again, soup makers. Every year, it's really exciting because we have different soups. We have some standards. We have people who want to make the soups they want to make, and Quinn, this year, they said, I'm making my goulash again, and we said yes. So if you want to make a soup next year, let me know. We want you to make a soup. So many years, I opened this program by saying how awful it is that we are in January. January is awful. There was the year where we had a bomb cyclone happening kind of around this time. There was the year of the government shutdown around this time. We've had some presidential inaugurations around this time. Right now, things are feeling hard on a global scale. Things are hard. Things are difficult. It's cold. January feels cold. In reality, it also just metaphorically, it's cold. I start off this program that way, so I can also say we come together at Writer's House in Mind of Winter to acknowledge this, all of our human connections. We eat together, we make meaning together, and we listen to each other. That's what Mind of Winter is at its core. Making meaning together, eating together, listening to each other. I hope that that's not only what we do at Mind of Winter, but what we do at Writer's House. I want you to come here to eat, and I want you to come here to make meaning, and I want you to come together here to listen. You belong here because you choose to be here. You belong here because you are here. So for the event itself, this, in addition to soup making and keep eating soup, we have this program that will list the readers in order, who's reading what. I'll ask them to just come up one after the other, no introductions. You'll just come up next when it's your turn. So if you're a reader and you can't see this, there are a couple on these chairs here. So we'll do that. One after the other. Readers, you don't need to tell us why you've chosen your poem or your piece, but if you want to, you can. That's a nice touch. That's really up to you and what you're feeling. Readers are reading about 5 minutes each or less. That's our goal. We're going to start, though, with the origin of this program. The reason we call it Mind of Winter is from Wallace Stevens' poem called The Snowman. That's on the back of your program. And Al Filreis, our faculty director, is going to lead us in a conversation about it. So please help me welcome Al to the podium.
Hi, everybody. Also, these things, am I allowed to? We don't do commercial things at the Writer's House. We're not brand conscious or even brand friendly, but Girl Scouts is a brand, but really, it's the cookies. And Alice, our beloved Alice. Alice, can you hear me? Okay. So Alice is really into this, and I am too. The peanut butter patties are like the best. Anyway, they're $4 a box, and I assume they're going to a good cause, the school, right?
They actually go towards Girl Scouts.
Okay, maybe not so much, but
Girl Scouts affordable for all girls everywhere.
there you go. There you go. So it's essentially scholarship or financial aid for kids who want to participate in Girl Scouts. So I just thought I'd plug. Thank you, Alice. Thank you. She didn't. Oh. Okay, we're going to read The Mind of Winter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read it aloud, and then I'm going to call on about 9 of you, one at a time, to take responsibility for a word or a phrase in the poem. And I just saw Andrés here, so I've got to write him down just in case. Yeah, and I see Quinn too. So we've been doing this forever here. This Mind of Winter was, we're not really a December holiday kind of crowd, partly because we all go away for the holiday. We're also very ecumenical and I would say, very open to different kinds of belief here at the Writers' House. And so we decided to celebrate January in a kind of reverse angry celebration, like it's cold and this stinks and why are we in the Northeast? Why aren't we somewhere warmer? And Wallace Stevens was in the Northeast, outside of Hartford, Connecticut, and it got very cold there, and he wrote this poem, which is really famous. It's kind of about the paradox of if you can finally have a mind of winter, then you're going to be really warm with human imagination. You're actually going to go so zen that you begin to explode with ideas at the point where you realize you have emptied your mind of ideas. So it's that Zen thing. He did read a lot of Zen. This is his only really good Zen poem. It's one of his few really good poems. But we celebrate the mind of winter this way. Okay, so what Jessica was saying is that the irony of celebrating the cold day with the warm soup is that we come together and we just derive as much warmth from community and collaboration, intellectual, aesthetic, ideological, and other collaboration that the Writers' House is built to do. So I'm going to read it, then I'm going to call on a few people to help, and here it goes. By the way, this is one sentence. This is one heck of a sentence. If you write the sentence in prose in your paper, in your Zen class, you'll probably get a B- because it's a run-on. One must have a mind of winter to regard the frost and the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow, and have been cold a long time, to behold the junipers shagged with ice, the spruces rough in the distant glitter of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind, in the sound of a few leaves, which is the sound of the land full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place for the listener who listens in the snow and nothing himself, beholds nothing that is not there, and the nothing that is. That's kind of mind-blowing. Okay, so let's get some assignments. Who's ready? Who doesn't want to do it? It doesn't matter. Okay. We need somebody to do the title. Okay. Also, Wes, Zach, portable mic is available. Oh, Wes has got it. Okay. I think, Briar, you've got the snowman, the title. Okay? Will you accept? I accept. Okay. Julia, I'm sorry, Julie. Julie's here. Hi, Julie. Hi. This is Julie, everybody. Say hi to Julie. Julie tries to get here a lot, but this is like a rare thing, and we're really happy she's here. Julie, will you take the phrase, a mind of winter? Yes. Okay. I would like, is Maya in the room? Can you come into the main room? Are you willing? Is she? Does she look like she's willing? Can anybody see? Just say, Maya, 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 Maya. She gets easily embarrassed. Hi, Maya. Will you take the word regard and the word behold, a couple lines down, regard and behold? Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. Anybody from far north, Vermont, New Hampshire, Canada, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Scotland, Lapland? What the heck? Rochester. Who are you? Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Michelle, I would like you to have been cold a long time. Michelle from Rochester. Okay. I need someone who's taken astronomy is it 101? 001 is that requirement that's not a happy making thing at the Writers' House. A lot of people do it. Who else has taken it? Hannah Lazar. Can you imagine taking it? No. Quinn. I'm taking it. You're taking it now. Quinn, you have the distant glitter of the January sun. Okay. All right. I need somebody who's very emotional to do this next one. Sophia DeRose? No. All right. How about Wes? I don't know Wes well enough, but I think he's a very emotional guy. Are you? Wes? You are? Yeah. So you're going to have this really hard emotional thing of holding the mic for yourself when you talk. Wes, you've got not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind. Okay? All right. Now we're going to skip all the way down for this weird phrase, Andrés, for the listener. Suddenly there's a listener. It's really hard to know who that listener is. Okay? Yeah. Heidi, can you do nothing himself? Sure. Okay, it's a hard one. Okay, we have two more. David Marchino, will you do nothing that is not there? Sure. Thank you. You're so compliant. It's ridiculous. Usually there are people who say, fuck no, I'm not doing this. Hannah Lazar, you've got the nothing that is. Hannah. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. I'm going to read it once through, and then we're going to start with Briar. The snowman. One must have a mind of winter to regard the frost in the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow, and have been cold a long time to behold the junipers shagged with ice, the spruces rough in the distant glitter of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind, in the sound of a few leaves, which is the sound of the land, full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place for the listener who listens in the snow, and nothing himself beholds nothing that is not there, and the nothing that is. It's pretty amazing. Okay, Briar, make quick work of this. The snowman. What is it? I know there's a first easy definition.
The snowman that a kid makes.
Wait, Wes is coming with the, because we record this. Yeah. The thing kids make?
The quick easy answer is the thing that kids make.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Audience poll. Did they get that right?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh, okay. Okay, you're just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Can anyone in the audience say why that's wrong-headed? No one. No, Quinn. Anybody? Zach, why is that not quite right? Oh, you're not looking at the text. Peyton, why is it not quite right?
Because it's not a man in the snow, like physically.
Oh, you're being kind of literal there. It's not a man, it's a snowman. No, Briar, why is that wrong-headed?
I mean, I do think that Peyton has a point in that there isn't a snowman in this, but I think that what it's more about is that when we get these first couple of lines to saying one must have a mind of winter to be able to see these things in winter and be able to fully comprehend them.
You're reading the whole poem, which is a Briar thing. But what about just the snowman? If I say to you, hey, Briar, let's make a snowman, what do I mean?
Let's make a man made of snow.
Right?
Let's make the figure of a man.
Figure that we call a man, made of snow, usually like 3 balls that we roll up and a carrot and a coal for eyes if you can find coal.
Sticks for arms.
Sticks. But how would we spell that? Briar.
It would be one word.
It's one word.
One
so
word.
This is not the snowman. And Siri is wrong-headed. So it's not that. So what is it? Make quick work of it. It's not the snowman we roll around, although that figure doesn't have any mind, so it does have a mind of winter, literally snow.
I mean, them as two separate things.
Okay, this is a good start. Snaps for Briar, please. Okay, one must have a mind of winter, Julie.
That's me. Thanks. Well, building on what was just said,
Right.
thinking about the space, it's interesting to me that the preposition of is introduced here.
Which means what?
Well, it brings about a relationship.
Yes, what kind of relationship? If
Well-
I say you have a heart of gold, how's of working there?
Well, usually it would mean that the heart is akin to the gold. It can't be made of gold, or else it wouldn't be a heart.
In that case, that's the metaphor if you have a heart
Right.
of gold. So can anyone have a mind of winter? Define it. Let's do 2 definitions. One sense would be
One sense would be that it belongs to the winter.
yes, you have a mind for winter. You're a winter type. You're wintry. You're cold. Right? Another? Is that first one what this poem probably refers to? Anybody throw out a second one? A mind made out of winter. Who said that? Literally, mind made out of winter, which would be the snowman.
Right.
With one word, like, oh, if I could only be so not in 5 classes, so not feeling my parents' pressure to get a law degree when I graduate after having taken all my painting and photography classes. Oh, if only I could just be empty-headed for a change, like most of my friends who are happy. Why can't I just rid my brain of any thought? I want a mind of winter. I want a mind of winter. So that's kind of what it's saying, the Zen part. But you're also saying the first thing is, say it again.
That the mind belongs to winter.
Yes. Snaps for Julie. That was great. So we have a wintry mind problem here. And now we go to Maya, who is going to tell us, there you are, who's going to tell us something about these 2 weird verbs that nobody really uses much in English these days. How many times have you used regard as an active verb lately? I think you have to be a certain age to have said, well, I regard this as, it's just really not used anymore. It's a great word. And behold. Those are 2 words that aren't used, but they're very powerful. Maya.
Yes.
Do you have a mic?
Yes. Does it work?
Yes. What's
Go
happening
on.
there, Maya? So you have to be empty-headed or wintry-minded in order to do what?
I think The Snowman is a poem about survival or resilience in ways. So
Yeah.
I think regard is you consider. It also can mean like you're gazing steadily, like regarding in that way. So like sometimes in the winter you have to take a deep breath and go with it, I guess.
What's the difference between, this is great. What's the difference between, you have to have had a mind of winter to see the frost and the boughs, or to sense, or to embrace them, or to get them, to understand them. No, this is regard. What's the distinction between regard and all of that other stuff?
Potentially, despite everything, look at it through a different perspective, maybe.
And behold.
Taking it all in.
And behold. That's
yeah,
a really
and
even
behold
more,
is to take it all in, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So Maya's heading us in the direction of a different way of seeing, a different way of perceiving. And if you have an empty mind, if you're cold and wintry, you've got a certain way of regarding the nature around you, right? Frost on the boughs and the pine trees crusted with snow. Ooh. You've got to regard that. You've got to stand apart from it. You have to be more neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snaps for Maya. That was really much easier than you thought it would be. Yeah, and painless. So you have to have a mind of winter to regard the frost and the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow and have been cold a long time, Rochester girl. Where are you? Michelle. Sorry. And have been cold a long time. Can you tell us about the state of being cold a long time? You're out, you're shoveling the driveway, and then the neighbor's driveway, and then someone drives by in their car and they're stuck and you push them out of the snow, and now you've been out for 5 hours in the snow. How do you feel? And it's 0 degrees.
Well, at first it really sucks, and you just want to go inside, but I think after a while you become accustomed to it and numb to it.
Yes.
So I think that goes back to the neutrality and like the having the experience to be able to regard something.
Wow. She's really great. Thank you, Michelle. That's great. So in other words, anybody want to kind of summarize what Michelle just said that was so brilliant? Shout it out. Anybody. What did she just say? You have to, if you're cold at first, you think, get me inside. And then you realize what? Well, warm, paradoxically, Connie, yeah. Give in. Be part of the land. Why do humans have to be fighting climate all the time? Why don't we just, like, it's cold. I'm cold. I am cold. I define cold. I behold cold. I regard cold. I can do cold. Cold is me. I can do cold. I don't need warmth. And so, you have to be cold a long time to behold. Think about what Maya said. To behold the junipers. What's a juniper? It's like a Christmas tree type thing. Shagged with ice. Great word, shagged, right? So the ice is kind of in that Christmas tree, kind of shagging. Shagged with ice. And the spruce is rough in Quinn, the distant glitter of the January sun. All right, astronomy.
Okay, so the Earth is tilted. I have my textbook up, but
You got your textbook?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my God, this has never happened.
the
Okay.
Cosmic Perspective,
Ta-
9th edition.
Quinn,
Anyway.
take a deep breath.
All right, so the Earth is tilted
Yes.
on an axis facing towards the North Star.
It's always tilted.
Yes.
Right.
It's always tilted.
Right.
And when it goes around the sun, different parts of the Earth are like kind of tilted towards or away from the sun.
Correct.
So the northern hemisphere
This is
tilted
definitely
away,
a northern hemisphere poem.
of
Yes.
course. So we get less sunlight, and that's why winter is so cold. And yet, we are closest to the sun during January. So that's why everything is
Ironic.
so bright. And like the sunlight
Quinn.
is closer, and it's all like shining in the
Science
snow.
is happening.
Yeah.
At the writer's house. That's never happened before. Oh my God. So what you're saying is that it feels far away. You know, how many of you have looked at the sun in the winter? It's like, oh, I wish that sun were bigger and brighter. And it's, wow, it feels so far away. The sun is life. The sun is poetry. The sun is imagination. I got to do life, poetry, and imagination with the sun being far away. And actually, the sun is glittering stronger because it's closer. How do you like that? Thank you, Quinn. Quinn, astronomy. Give me the email address of your professor, and I will get you an A for that course. Okay. The spruce is rough in the distant glitter of the January sun. You have to do all of that, Wes. You have to do all of that, Mr. Emotional. All of it. All of it. And if you do all of that, it's really hard. You have to be cold. You have to have a mind of winter. You have to have been cold a long time in Rochester. She's on her way back to Rochester. I don't know where she went. And not to think of misery in the sound of the wind. Wes, what? What's being said?
So I think maybe this line is like a spiritual, or coming to a spiritual oneness with nature, you know, which like possesses the soul with like grace and makes you, you know, makes all the negativity in life kind of soften, you know, or the misery in life kind of soften.
Wow. So can I ask you a question? When you're walking, you know the wind tunnel that gets created by these stupid high-rises?
Oh, I didn't know that was why. I thought it was just
Yeah, it
windy
was
in that
created
area.
accidentally, but the architects are really good at building like ugly, inhuman glass and steel, but they never do things like, I wonder what will happen to the wind. So there is a wind tunnel there. It's terrible. And you're hunkered down, and it's 10 degrees, and you've got to stay up all night to study, and you're leaning in literally to the wind, and the wind is howling, woo, and you hear misery in the wind. The wind is saying, Wes, be stead. Now, why do we let the wind determine our mood? Because it happens. We think the wind is misery, right?
Yeah.
Why do we do that? And how can we break that cycle?
Oh, that's difficult. Very philosophical. I don't know. I think it's because you know, with all make all these bad associations with winter, that everything that
Yes.
winter has to offer is
Yes.
just like a bad thing.
He did it. So, hey, Wes, I'm teaching Modpo in the fall. It's poetry. Would you take the course?
Oh yes,
Oh,
that would be
it's
lovely.
been done. The deal's been done.
Pleasant.
Anybody in favor of Wes taking a poetry course in the fall right here? 1:30, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Thank
Great.
you. I appreciate
Okay.
that.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this. So what Wes is saying basically is why when the wind blows do we have to be depressed? What if we break the cycle of depression, taking our cues from the winter, and we say, like this event, Mind of Winter, with the soup and everything, we say, the hell with it. The hell with depression associated with the cold. How about the Rochester embrace of the cold? I am actually more myself when it's cold. When the wind blows, I don't hear misery. I'm going to break that stupid pathetic fallacy is what they call it in high school. Right? The pathetic fallacy is, oh, it's winter wind, and so the characters of this poem are depressed. No, says Wes. We got to break that cycle. Wes?
Oh, you know, once you start thinking positively, it'll all be okay.
Yeah. All right. Give him a big hand. He's got... Do you agree? Love it? You agree? Okay, good. I told you I was going to call on you, and then I didn't. Not to think of any misery. So you have to be really, really cold in order to break that cycle that Wes is talking about, to hear misery in the sound of the wind and the sound of a few leaves, which is the sound of the land full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place, Andrés, for the listener. Now, what the hell is happening now? Because who is this listener? I thought we just had a snowman. Who's listening? Wait, we got to get this thing on. Aren't you part of the Wexler crew?
I'm not being
You're not
paid
a-
right now.
So we have determined a situation, right? Jessica, take note. Okay, when you're not on the clock, the mics don't work for you.
Exactly. And so I read it as when you gave us context about Wallace Stevens here, was that he's very much into Zen. And so I read the listener as the Zen subject and as this person that has taken all this advice and has been able to make themselves one with nature. And so thus nature makes all these noises for them because they are already within nature.
That is
itself.
really well done, and he deserves an applause just for that.
I mean, thank you.
That was really great. And you're speeding us to the end as well. Okay, so who else might the listener be in this situation right here? Well, I think the snowman is the man-ish, human-ish person who's emptied the mind. But the listener seems to be another character. And somebody just shouted it out a second ago. Connie? The reader. Yeah, us. We're the listener. So I read the poem. You listened. And suddenly in the last stanza, you are now the object or the subject of the situation. The listener who listens in the snow. So suddenly we've got a cold day. The sun is far away or seems to be. There's a snowman over there and you are looking, beholding, regarding the snowman, and you are now what's at stake. For the listener who listens in the snow and nothing himself beholds nothing that is not there and the nothing that is. Heidi, nothing himself.
Yeah, so we've determined that nothing himself is referring to this listener, who's the reader.
Yep.
And
How could you be nothing?
Okay, so yeah, so I think that you can read this line in like a Yoda way. Nothing himself beholds. You're not really seeing anything. You're not taking anything in. But and as you just said, in fact, it's referring to the himself being nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow. So subjectivity necessitates listening. You receive a message from someone else, listening. And yet, this is subjectivity that amounts to nothing. That is to say, has somehow become...
Or that is to say, you talked about how Wallace Stevens was into Zen and how this poem is Zen.
Yeah.
The listener, the non-defined like subject listener, there is nothing there.
Right.
But like is just the listener, just as like everybody is listening.
Yes.
And everybody is nothing.
That's great, Heidi. Thank you. And if this listener who figures out how to get to nothingness now beholds, in a new kind of way of beholding, that's a word we used earlier, beholds what? Only when you're nothing can you behold what David's about to say and what Hannah's about to say. Only when you're nothing, David, can you behold nothing that is not there. That's a brain tweezer, but you're up to it.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So when I see that, I think of the double negative, right? And the no thing that is not has to be something. And it makes me think of being overtaken by the barren winter landscape, how everything is kind of blanketed and there's all the colors and all the things you've seen are suddenly overtaken by the snow.
That's really beautiful. Can you translate that into plain English? Nothing that is not there?
Yeah, you walk outside and you had a car, you had a lawn, and suddenly it's all just white, empty space.
Right. So you're beholding nothing that is not there. If there's something there, you're not beholding it. Or you're only beholding what's there. You're never beholding anything that's not there.
Yeah.
That's cool. And Hannah, finally, and nothing that is. The nothing that is. Hannah Lazar. Mike's going to Hannah. I'll occupy some time. Hannah Lazar.
So just
beholding the nothing that is.
the nothing that is.
Yes.
So I interpreted that somewhat literally in terms of the landscape. Like, again, like nothing that is, you look out and you see nothing except for white snow.
Yes.
But also
it is, and it is a something.
But also a bit more figuratively, the nothing that is kind of reverts you back to a more tranquil, placid state.
Yeah.
Referring back to Zen. So if you're thinking about nothing, then nothing is kind of what exists.
Yes.
But you're still technically not thinking about anything, and you're just completely zenned out, I guess is the best way of phrasing
Zenned out. Totally fantastic. So finally, Hannah, you're saying that when you go through all this situation, when you achieve this status of nothingness, only then can you look out at a wintry landscape and say, contrary, I'm not far from being miserable.
I'm
right?
peaceful. I'm at peace.
Yes, but I also can see where people see nothingness in winter, I actually see something that's there. Emptiness, blankness, even frigidity. I just have this kind of sense that nothing is happening, and that is a something. So I'll end with this thought that I think is in this poem. Cold. When somebody says, oh, you're cold. Cold is one of those pathetic fallacies. Cold does not mean, if you are cold, we've borrowed cold from winter, right? Cold doesn't mean unfeeling. Cold doesn't mean inhuman. Cold means cold. Don't decide that the wind is making you miserable. Defy it. Get rid of what we call the wintry doldrums or winter depression, which is a common thing. Forget about, if you're depressed, but don't borrow it from the climate. The climate is the climate. Rochester is always going to be Rochester. It's hard enough to be bummed. Don't let the winter get you down as well. How about that for a moral of the story? The 9 people who helped us, would you raise your hands? Let's the rest of us applaud them. You are fantastic. And now, thank you so much. You're going to hear from Erin next, and all you have to do, Erin, is come up to the mic.
Girl Scouts are awesome. Buy your cookies. So when Jessica asked me to be a part of this, I started thinking about winter. I am not from Philadelphia originally, although I've not quite lived half my life here. I am from the snow belts of the Great Lakes, Cleveland, Ohio, and was used to at least 3 feet of snow every winter. So here in Philadelphia, I laugh at you all in your snow. But when I was thinking back to snow, I thought back to my childhood. So I'm going to read a children's story called The Snowy Day, and I thought it would go very well because, as one person's button or patch says on their bag, I once was your age. I was your age once. I was close. I read it from afar. So we all were young, and hopefully we all had a chance to play in snow. And if we didn't, imagine with us. And I'm going to show the pictures as we go along. So please enjoy The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. It's also one of the first books when I was a kid that had a kid of color as the main character. One winter morning, Peter woke up and looked out the window. Snow had fallen during the night. It covered everything as far as he could see. After breakfast, he put on his snowsuit and ran outside. The snow was piled up very high along the street to make a path for walking. Crunch, crunch, crunch! His feet sank into the snow. He walked with his toes pointing out like this. He walked with his toes pointing in like that. Then he dragged his feet slowly to make tracks. And he found something sticking out of the snow that made a new track. It was a stick that was just right for smacking a snow-covered tree. Down fell the snow, plop, on top of Peter's head. Look at the pictures. No words on this page. He thought it would be fun to join the big boys in their snowball fight, but he knew he wasn't old enough. Not yet. So he made a smiling snowman, and he made angels. He pretended he was a mountain climber. He climbed up a great big, tall, heaping mountain of snow and slid all the way down. He picked up a handful of snow and another and still another. He packed it round and firm and put the snowball in his pocket for tomorrow. Then he went into his warm house. He told his mother all about his adventures while she took off his wet socks. And he thought and thought and thought about them. Before he got into bed, he looked into his pocket. His pocket was empty. The snowball wasn't there. He felt very sad. While he slept, he dreamed that the sun had melted all the snow away. But when he woke up, his dream was gone. The snow was still everywhere. New snow was falling. After breakfast, he called to his friend from across the hall, and they went out together into the deep, deep snow. So with that, next time we actually have a deep, deep snow, please come join me at the LGBT Center and play outside. Thank you.
So this is what it looks like from up here. Okay. Hi, I'm Peyton. And when I was asked to do this, I immediately thought of this poem because I think it's quite obvious. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his hard spells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
Is Al still here? Is he listening somewhere in the house? I hope so, because I disagree very strongly with his reading of Wallace Stevens' poems, and I'm going to illustrate that through my reading. Is he? I don't know if he's listening. Did he leave? It's fine. No, that's okay. I think that we're all here together. This is a community event. It's important as a community to disagree and talk through our disagreements and to be vulnerable. So for this event, readers were tasked with choosing some piece of writing that illustrates their personal connection to winter. So as you can see on the program, I was going to read this Jack London short story, which is very famous, you might have heard of, you might have read, about a man freezing to death because he underestimates nature and the importance of connection to other people. But it's a long story and hard to excerpt pointedly. And also, that was kind of an escape for me, or an easy way out of really being vulnerable. Because, to be honest, my strong personal connection to the season is that between the ages of 10 to 13, when I was going through things I had no way to deal with, I used to go out without a jacket into the snow and find somewhere to lay down and try to fall asleep, hoping I would freeze to death and not wake up. Oh, by the way, trigger warning, mental health and suicide. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. And hoping I would freeze to death and not wake up. But also there was like a part of me inside hoping that someone in my family would come out of our warm house into the snow and find me. And these people who are tasked with loving and protecting me would find me and help me. So instead of Jack London, I want to read you a poem that you most likely have not heard before by someone you most likely have not heard before. It was published in the Buffalo News in 2015. It's written by Chester Ray Maternick, who is the father of a young man struggling with schizoaffective disorder. And Chester was moved by the news's reporting on the death of Ronald Hunter Jr., a 21-year-old man struggling with schizophrenia and housing insecurity who froze to death on the Buffalo streets. This is that poem. The Ballad of Ronald Hunter Jr. No one knew why he pulled away and curled up in a ball in his room where he stayed. "What's wrong?" his father and mother said. "I'm hearing strange voices inside of my head." He was just 18, not sure of himself. It was up to him if he wanted help. For acting strangely and health quickly sinking, a disease of the mind that crippled his thinking. "Mom, I love you," the last words he said. With a hug and a nod, he left with a friend, determined to make it, get a job, pay the rent. Downtown in Buffalo, in a shelter, time spent, a stiff wind rides this code blue night, to -20, no warmth in sight. Only a camera's lens saw it all, this homeless man stand, then fall. Body overheated on this coldest of nights, trying to find a way to get inside. Shirt unbuttoned, his jacket shed, won't be long before he's dead. On the ground in this industrial complex, dwindling mist from his last breath, on this cold and hard concrete he lay, not far from the bridge where Bailey crosses Broadway. Why did he laugh? What made him cry? So many questions, he didn't have to die. The youngest of 7, his life ended sooner. The name of this man was Ronald Hunter Jr. In this country of gold and rich choices, not many cared about this man who heard voices. The youngest of 7, his life ended sooner. The name of this man was Ronald Hunter Jr. Thank you.
Hi. So I'm reading a poem called Horses in the Snow, which is by Roberta Hill. Roberta Hill is a Wisconsin Oneida First Nations writer, and she wrote this to talk about her experience of winter. Horses in the Snow. They are a gift I have wanted again. Wanted. One moment in mountains when winter got so cold the oil froze before it could burn, I chopped ferns of hoarfrost from all the windows and peered up at pines, a wedding cake by a baker gone mad. Swirls by the thousand shimmered above me until a cloud lumbered over a ridge, bringing the heavier white of more flurries. I believed it would last, that when you went out to test the black ice or to dig out a Volkswagen filled with rich women, you'd return and we'd splutter like oil, match after match, warm in the making. Wisconsin's flat farmland never approved. I hid in cornfields far into October, listening to music that whirled from my thumbprint. When sunset played havoc with bright leaves of alders, I never mentioned longing or fear. I crouched like a good refugee in brown creeks and forgot why autumn is harder than spring. But snug on the western slope of the mountain, I'd accept every terror, break open seals to release love's headwaters to unhurried sunlight. Weren't we big hearts? Through some trick of silver we held one another, believing each motion the real one. Ah, lover, why were dark sources bundled up in our eyes? Each owned an agate marbled with anguish, a heart or its echo we hardly knew. Lips touching lips, did that break my horizon as much as those horses broke my belief? You drove off and I walked the old road, scolding the doubles that wanted so much. The chestnut mare whinnied a cloud into a scrub pine. In a windless corner of a corral, 4 horses fit like puzzle pieces, their dark eyes and lashes defined by the white. The colt kicked his hind, loped from the fence. The mares and a stallion galloped behind, lifting and leaping, finding each other in full accord with the earth and their bodies. No harm ever touched them once they cut loose, snorting at flurries, falling again. How little our chances for feeling ourselves. They vanished so quickly, one flick of a tail. Where do their mountains and moments begin? I stood a long time in the sharpening wind. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Maya. The program says Maya and Emma, but Emma has the flu, so I know she's back in her dorm. But I'm here. This is a poem Emma chose, but it's really lovely, so I'm just going to read it alone. It's called February Evening in New York by Denise Levertov. As the stores close, a winter light opens air to iris blue. Glint of frost through the smoke, grains of mica, salt of the sidewalk. As the buildings close, released autonomous feet pattern the streets in hurry and stroll. Balloon heads drift and dive above them. The bodies aren't really there. As the lights brighten, as the sky darkens, a woman with crooked heels says to another woman while they step along at a fair pace, "You know, I'm telling you what I love best is life. I love life. Even if I ever get to be old and wheezy or limp, limping along, I would still..." Out of hearing. To the multiple disordered tones of gears changing, a dance to the compass points, out, four-way river, prospect of sky wedged into avenues, left at the ends of streets, west sky, east sky, more life tonight, a range of open time at winter's outskirts.
Hi, I'm the other Maya. Tonight's been super lovely. Fun fact, Snowy Day by Ezra Keats that Erin read. It's the first book I've ever read as a kid, so that was really nice. Yeah, more books for young Black protagonists. Yeah. I'm going to read The Snow Fairy by Claude McKay. Throughout the afternoon, I watched them there. Snow fairies falling from the sky, whirling fantastic in the misty air, contending fierce for space supremacy, and they flew down a mightier force at night, as though in heaven there was revolt and riot, and they, frail things, had taken panic flight, down to the calm earth seeking peace and quiet. I went to bed and rose at early dawn, to see them huddled together in a heap, each merged into the other upon the lawn, worn out by the sharp struggle, fast asleep. The sun shone brightly on them half the day. By night, they stealthily had stolen away. And suddenly, my thoughts then turned to you, who came to me upon a winter's night, when snow sprites round my attic window flew, your hair disheveled, eyes aglow with light. My heart was like the weather when you came. The wanton winds were blowing loud and long, but you, with joy and passion all aflame, you danced and sang a lifting summer song. I made room for you in my little bed, took covers from the closet fresh and warm, a downful pillow from your scented head, and lay down with you, resting in my arm. You went with dawn, you left me ere the day, the lonely actor of a dreamy play.
Hey y'all, I'm Andrés. I'd like to preface this with, so I'm gonna read a story called Rainbow Crow from the Lenape people. I like to say first that while I have indigenous heritage and ancestry, I do not claim indigeneity, but this is the land that we are currently occupying, so yeah. Okay, Rainbow Crow. It was so cold. Snow fell constantly and ice formed all over the waters. The animals had never seen snow before. At first, it was a novelty, something to play in, but the cold increased tenfold and they began to worry. The little animals were being buried in the snow drifts, and the larger animals could hardly walk because the snow was so deep. Soon, all would perish if something were not done. We must send a messenger to Kijamakaong, the creator who creates by thinking what will be, said the wise owl. We must ask him to think the world warm again so the spirit snow will leave us in peace. The animals were pleased with this plan. They began to debate amongst themselves, trying to decide who to send up to the Creator. Wise Owl could not see well during the daylight, so he could not go. Coyote was easily distracted and liked playing tricks, so he could not be trusted. Turtle was steady and stable, but he crawled too slowly. Finally, Rainbow Crow, the most beautiful of all the birds with shimmering feathers of rainbow hues and an enchanted singing voice, was chosen to go to Kachamakaong. It was an arduous journey, 3 days up and up into the heavens, past the trees and the clouds, beyond the sun and the moon, and even above all the stars. He was buffeted by winds and had no place to rest, but he carried bravely on until he reached heaven. When Rainbow Crow reached the holy place, he called out to the Creator, but received no answer. The Creator was too busy thinking up what would be to notice even the most beautiful of birds. So Rainbow Crow began to sing his most beautiful song. The Creator was drawn from his thoughts by the lovely sound and came to see which bird was making it. He greeted Rainbow Crow kindly and asked what gift he could give the noble bird in exchange for his song. Rainbow Crow asked the Creator to unthink the snow so that the animals of earth would not be buried and freeze to death. But the Creator told Rainbow Crow that the snow and the ice had spirits of their own and could not be destroyed. "What shall we do then?" asked the Rainbow Crow. "We will all freeze or smother under the snow." "You will not freeze," the Creator reassured him, "for I will think of fire, something that will warm all creatures during the cold times." The Creator stuck a stick into the blazing hot sun. The end blazed with a bright, glowing fire which burned brightly and gave off heat. "This is fire," he told Rainbow Crow, handing him the cool end of the stick. "You must hurry to earth as fast as you can fly before the stick burns up." Rainbow Crow nodded his thanks to the Creator and flew as fast as he could go. It was a 3-day trip to heaven, and he was worried that the fire would burn out before he even reached the earth. The stick was large and heavy, but the fire kept Rainbow Crow warm as he descended from heaven down to the bright path of the stars. Then the fire grew hot as it came closer to Rainbow Crow's feathers. As he flew past the sun, his tail caught on fire, turning the shimmering, beautiful feathers black. By the time he flew past the moon, his whole body was black with soot from the hot fire. When he plunged into the sky and flew through the clouds, the smoke got into his throat, strangling his beautiful singing voice. By the time Rainbow Crow landed among the freezing cold animals of earth, he was black as tar and could only caw instead of sing. He delivered the fire to the animals, and they melted the snow and warmed themselves, rescuing the little animals from the snow drifts where they lay buried. It was a time of rejoicing, for Tinde, fire, had come to earth. But Rainbow Crow sat apart, saddened by his dull, ugly feathers and his rasping voice. Then he felt a touch of wind on his face. He looked up and saw the Creator who creates by thinking what will be, walking toward him. "Do not be sad, Rainbow Crow," the Creator said. "All animals will honor you for the sacrifice you make for them, and when the people come, they will not hunt you, for I have made your flesh taste of smoke, so that it is no good to eat, and your black feathers and hoarse voice will prevent man from putting you into a cage to sing for him. You will be free." Then the Creator pointed to Rainbow Crow's black feathers, and before his eyes, Rainbow Crow saw the dull feathers become shiny, and inside each one, he could see all the colors of the rainbow. "This will remind everyone who sees you of the service you have made to your people," he said, "and the sacrifice you made that saved them all. And so shall it ever be." Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Mind of Winter. Let's have one more round of applause for our readers, our soup makers, and ourselves for making meaning here. I hope if there's soup, you'll eat a little bit more of it and you'll come back in the future.